Sonic the Hedgehog was my childhood. I read way too many of the comics, played all of the classic games, watched all of the cartoons, and I even saw the anime OVA. Now, eventually I moved on to more adult things, like Transformers. But I still like to dip my toes back into my other borderline autistic interests from time to time. So recently, I've been replaying the classic series of Sonic games, and the one I was most interested in revisiting was Sonic CD. This game is very much the black sheep of the classic series, and that's because it changed a lot of stuff from the others and did some more experimental things that didn't resonate with everybody. When the game came out back in 1993, it was a big hit. It was the best-selling title on the Sega CD, and critics thought it was great. But over the years, its reputation has got kinda muddied for the reasons I mentioned. I mean, sure, mainstream critics may still give it good reviews, but come on, they give everything good reviews. There doesn't seem to be much of a consensus on this game amongst fans. In fact, it was one of the main things that inspired me to make this video. For every person I hear saying it's the shit, there's someone saying it's just plain shit, and vice versa. I didn't play it a ton myself as a kid because it was so different from Sonics 2 and 3, which were my favorites. And I realized that I had never really formed a solid opinion on this game. In fact, I had never actually beaten it as far as I remember.
Oh, jeez!
Well, that changes today. I've gone through and replayed this game, and I want to examine it to see what the deal really is. Is it truly some unsung masterpiece, or a shitty game that ruins the formula? Well, let's find out. But first of all, there's the matter of what version to play and how to actually play it. Now, the most convenient way is through the Sonic Origins collection, but fuck that. For one, they removed all of Sonic's voice lines that are in the game, which is an unforgivable sin in my book. And also, last time I checked, it was a buggy mess that introduced a bunch of issues that weren't even in the original game. Sadly though, this is the only version you can buy on PC. There was a better Steam port, but those bastards at Sega delisted it so you'd only be able to play it through their crappy collection. So you know what? I'm emulating this shit. And if you're one of the retards against this kind of thing, I refer you to these videos. But anyway, I decided to go with the original Japanese version since it has what is, in my opinion, the superior soundtrack. And despite some occasional stutter due to the older system I'm emulating, I still wanted to get the most authentic experience possible so I can play just as the developers intended.
Hey! You still don't have a Sega CD? Huh? What are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man.
Now, for those of you who don't know, the Sega CD, or Mega CD as it's known if you're not North American or Brazilian, was an add-on for the Sega Genesis. It provided more features for developers to take advantage of who could now employ improved graphics, audio, and processing power. Naturally, with the first Sonic being a big hit, Sega wanted to develop a new title for him on the system, but there was a problem. That being most of Sonic Team was overseas developing Sonic 2 in the US. So Sega picked Naoto Oshima as the game's new director, who put together a team and got to work. Oshima was a game designer and artist for Sega at the time who had actually designed Sonic himself. The game went through quite a few concepts, but Oshima wanted to do something different than what the team was trying to do with Sonic 2. Instead of doing a more speed-based thing like that game, the new team ultimately decided to make the levels more focused on exploration. One thing they did decide to take from Sonic 2 was its cut time travel concept. That game had to drop it due to budget and time constraints, but Oshima and his team had a lot more of a laid-back development, since this was considered more of a spin-off, and as such the team was able to experiment more. Since I'm playing the original, I get the hyper-compressed, slowed Sega CD intro. But you've probably seen the actual uncompressed animation in all of the newer releases, and I think it looks pretty cool. I also just want to get this out of the way now. I think most people who've played the game are aware that there are two soundtracks. The original, which is included in the Japanese and PAL releases of the game, and an alternate one for the US release. I don't know, I guess Sega of America just thought all these hype tracks weren't cutting it, and so they got this guy Spencer Nielsen to do a completely new soundtrack. Well, minus the past songs though, due to some hardware issues. Now, don't get me wrong, I would not call the US soundtrack bad. It's still pretty good, but at the same time, most of it came off as kinda generic to me.
Hatred, fear, bold, brave, cold-hearted.
Like I said earlier, I opted for the Japanese soundtrack, and I'll get more into why later. But I did want to mention that I think the US release does outdo the Japanese intro. The song used in the original isn't bad by any means, but it pales in comparison to the sheer awesomeness of Sonic Boom.
If you're strong, you can fly, you can reach the other side of the rainbow. It's alright, take a chance, 'cause there is no circumstance that you can't handle. When you use your mind, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, keeps you running faster. Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, Sonic Boom, save the planet from disaster. From the dark to the light, it's a supersonic flight.
Damn, this song is so good. I know Chris Chan sang it, so like Dare, his mere acknowledgement of it will taint it with cringe, but regardless, I still love it. It's got this great upbeat energy to it, and the vocals are just peak. I remember seeing this animation as a kid and thinking it was the coolest shit I had ever seen. And watching it now, it's still cool, but it just can't compare to what's come since. With the expanded hardware, they were actually able to establish a little more of the story with this cutscene, since we see Sonic discovering the main setting of the game, Little Planet. Little Planet is quite literally a little planet that seems to magically phase in and out of reality over this lake. Of course, Eggman's taking control of it, so now it's up to us to get up there and stop him. You can already start to see some of the changes to the formula in the first level, Palm Tree Panic. It's still one of the more speed-based levels, since you can mostly run through this one like a normal Sonic zone. But already the game is easing you into what's new. One of the first things you'll notice are these posts that say past or future. When you pass one, you get a charge, and then you need to build up enough unbroken speed to go to either time period. While you can go to the future, you only really need to venture to the past, where you have to destroy these robot transporters. And these Metal Sonic holograms, but those are optional. If you don't break the robot transporters, then when you reach the third act of a stage, it'll show you the resulting bad future where Eggman is taken over. But if you do destroy both transporters in Acts 1 and 2 of a stage in the past, then you instead get a good future, which fittingly is a bright, colorful, and upbeat utopia. This is the main gimmick of Sonic CD and what the game is primarily built around, going back and forth through time, exploring all the different versions of these stages, and trying to save the future. Each stage still has a roughly similar layout between time periods, but they're altered enough that you aren't just playing the same one with a new coat of paint. Now, if you can't tell already, I like this whole system a lot. I still get why people don't, considering it's so different from the other games, but at the same time, that's the point. And with that being said, I still think it works really well as its own thing. For one, I like that the time travel makes the running sections feel more strategic. You can't just blindly run forward, you've got to actually look around and plan out routes. Most of the platforming is still good, and even with the change in level design, I always felt like the game still allowed for speed at points even outside of the time travel. Going between each time period is also just so fucking awesome. I already mentioned getting to see how the levels change gameplay-wise, but I also want to mention the visuals and aesthetics. Little Planet is one of my favorite settings in a video game ever. Each stage is just so beautiful and vibrant looking. I mean, just putting it side by side with Sonic 2, which was being developed at the same time on the Genesis, you can really see how the Sega CD boosted the visuals for this one. I mean, it's not a huge overhaul, but compared to the Genesis, these levels are just bursting with so much more life and detail. I love bright and striking color combinations, and these levels have some of the best I've seen. That, and it's really cool to see how the planet shifts from being more organic to mechanical, either for better or worse. And all of this is enhanced even more by the amazing soundtrack. Each zone has 4 themes for each timeline: past, present, good future, and bad future. The songs corresponding to a zone feature similar melodies, instruments, and arrangements, but they're each remixed to fit with the tone of their timeline. Also, yes, I know zones are what acts are called in this game, but whatever. I'm just gonna stick with the normal Sonic terminology since that's what every other game uses, and there's no real difference when you get down to it. The score was composed by Naofumi Hayata and Masafumi Ogata, who both worked on a bunch of other games in the series and did a great job here. They employed a lot of audio clips from sample CDs and some cool synths, resulting in what I can hands down say is my second favorite Sonic soundtrack of all time. Sorry CD, but nothing beats T-Lopes. The soundtrack is still incredible though, and one of my favorites in the entire medium. I already love music done with these old synthesizers, but the samples bring it to a whole other level. They give the tracks so much personality and are part of the reason why they're so memorable. Some are pretty weird, but it's all stuff that's right up my alley. The present tracks serve as the main theme that the other ones riff off of. Like I said, they each feature similar motifs and melodies, but they'll be altered depending on the context of the song. For example, in Palm Tree Panic's track, there's cheering meant to encourage you to save the future or to congratulate you for doing so. Whereas in the Bad Future track, it's been changed into this kind of creepy and eerie chant to show oh, I fucked up. There's so many great examples of this just in that song alone. The past tracks are usually kinda mellow and laid back, while the good future themes appropriately reflect the brighter and more hopeful mood. All of the past themes also use more primitive PCM audio compared to the CD's improved hardware just to sell the feel even further. But I do have one major issue with the Bad Future tracks though, and that's the fact that they're so good, I almost don't want to get the good futures. They're definitely supposed to sound more ominous, aggressive, and dystopian, but how am I supposed to hate a future that sounds this cool? Fuck the environment if we get these fire beats in the process. I mean, a little gray air never hurt anybody, right? I love this soundtrack so much, and I can't really put into words how unique and cool I think it is. So you know what? I'm not going to. I'll just play you a few highlights of my favorite tracks, and you can judge for yourself. It's hard to describe, but something about the vibe of these levels just resonates with me so much. Just exploring them was so pleasant as I got absorbed into the atmosphere, and I think the music played a big part in that. The feeling and fun of time traveling and seeing all these different versions of the stages alone was enough to sell me on the gameplay. But look, it's not perfect. I'll admit some of the enemy and hazard placement is just cheap, especially in the later levels. Like, come on, how the hell was I supposed to not get hit by that without knowing it was there? That, and as it goes on, they make it real hard to time travel in some stages. With stuff constantly interrupting your speed, you're almost certainly gonna have to die or restart the level to do multiple attempts. Now, neither of these issues are bad or prevalent enough to ruin the game for me or anything like that, but don't get me wrong. It is flawed, and things like this definitely hold it back from being my favorite. Overall, though, I'd say the level design is mostly good, and the visuals are some of my favorite in a game ever. And again, there's going to be doses of that classic Sonic gameplay mixed in there, it's just usually being handled in a different way. I think a lot of people who don't like this game are just trying to play through it like a normal Sonic game, and if you do go through it that way, yeah, it's not great. But if you're like me and enjoy exploration-based gameplay and getting absorbed into a cool setting, it might be more up your alley. But anyway, getting back to Palm Tree Panic, it's such a great opening stage. Right away, it clues you into the tone of the game. You're immediately in this bright and vibrant area with this awesome track hyping you up. Time traveling aside, the gameplay is mostly the same as the other classic games, except the spin dash is in an earlier state where you can't rev it, and you also have this ability called the Super Peel Out which you can use to gain speed more effectively. The spin dash isn't as good as it will be in Sonic 2. It doesn't really carry momentum upward as much and is meant more so for offense. The Peel Out leaves you partially exposed, but its top speed is much faster than the spin dash and it carries momentum better. As such, I used it a lot more during the speed-based sections, but the spin dash still has its uses. I also like the animation a lot. The visual of Sonic running so fast his feet turn into these red infinity loops before he gets launched is just awesome. It may not be as practical as the spin dash in later games, but I do think the Peel Out is cooler. The badniks are mostly based on bugs in this game, and I love the way all of them look, even if some of them can be a pain in the ass. They're definitely less of a threat in CD, since in the past, once you destroy the transporter, they all disappear. But I think it's a nice touch, since it means once you've completed your objective, the exploration becomes a little more chill. Besides, you can always go back to the present if you really want to see them again. I also like how they turn into a flower when you destroy them, almost like a little colorful headstone, and it's real satisfying to see all of them pop up in the past after you break the transporter. Like the first Sonic game, this one has 3 acts per zone, but it's handled a lot better here. The third act is just a short little area to show off whatever future you got with a boss waiting at the end. And speaking of which... the bosses are another big issue people have with this game, mainly because, as you can see, they're kind of a joke. Most of them are so easy and either go by so quick you could barely even call it a boss, or you're just going through an ultra-simple pattern waiting for an opening. Now, for the really easy ones, I can't complain too much. I mean, yeah, they're nothing special, but you can breeze through them right away. It's those other weightier ones that can get a bit tedious, but thankfully there aren't many of them. Overall, though, this is an issue that just didn't detract from the experience for me that much because I breezed through them so quickly I barely remembered any of them. Well, there's one major exception, but I'll get to him later. Another similarity to the first game is that if you get to the end of a stage with 50 rings, then a giant ring will appear that you can jump through, and doing so allows you to access one of this game's special stages. Except we're not hunting Chaos Emeralds like you are in most Sonic games. In this one, we're in pursuit of the Time Stones. Within these special stages, you have to run around this pseudo 3D area and destroy these UFOs to make the Time Stone appear. Now, I'm not a programmer, so I don't know how the fuck this works in detail, but it's basically a 3D effect achieved through some visual trickery, similar to what you might see on the SNES. Now, on the plus side, these stages look sick, but on the downside, they feel kinda jank. For one, my depth perception isn't the best, and it's already hard enough as it is to gauge how far the UFOs really are and when to time your jumps. That and the controls feel sluggish, and touching the water rapidly drains your time. The first few are mostly fine, but then they fill the stages with so much hazards and water that you've got to keep track of that it just becomes a mess. The UFOs do have patterns, but I find it kinda hard to really pay attention and think when the clock is rapidly ticking down. Now, I did warm up to them a little more on this playthrough. I'd say it's only the final 3 that are real ball busters, but man, can they be pretty damn frustrating at times to say the least. These stages are my biggest issue with Sonic CD, and the one thing that made my good future run a bit of a pain. I mean, conceptually I like them, and in the Steam version they're a lot better since some of the jank has been ironed out, but there's still the issue that the weird sprite-based 3D just makes the very act of hitting your target kind of awkward. It helps that they're optional though, and even to get the good features, you don't need the stones. Gathering them just means all of the transporters will be automatically destroyed. I do want to know though, just what the hell are these things? I've been wondering this since I was a kid. I mean, I always assumed they were sent out by Robotnik to get the stones, but it's never confirmed in-game. I don't know, maybe they are real aliens. I mean, it wouldn't be too out of place in a Sonic game. Next up is Collision Chaos, a pinball-themed zone. Now, I grew up playing Sonic Spinball, so I've always enjoyed these kind of stages, even though I'm fucking terrible at them. The main gimmick of the level is getting launched into the sky by these bumpers, which works pretty well with the vertical climbing focus that it has. Overall, it reminds me a lot of Spring Yard Zone with the mechanics and visuals. It does have similar issues to that level though, mainly that this one definitely falls victim to some of that bullshit hazard placement I mentioned earlier. Although, overall, I'd say I like this one better. This is also where the game shifts more towards how the levels are going to be for a majority of it. Everything's more maze-like and packed in, so you've really got to explore and sometimes use the level's gimmicks to help find the transporter. It's also at the start of this level that we get to meet one of the two major characters this game introduced. And who am I referring to?
Try this question on for size. Who chases and hugs Sonic all the time and wields a powerful hammer? Why, it's Amy Rose, of course! Though more of a cutie than a hottie, you can't deny the fact that she's still attractive.
Would you have a seat over in that chair, please?
Now, this first appearance does a great job at establishing her as the nag that she always will be to Sonic. Because here, she just has to go and get herself captured by Robotnik's newest creation, Metal Sonic. Metal is pretty awesome, and they build him up as a threat right away by having him kidnap Amy. One thing I first noticed on this stage is that the music doesn't actually loop. It just fades out and restarts. Not a big deal by any means, but it can be a little awkward. Especially when you go to hear it play a different track before selecting the correct one. And, speaking of audio... Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, Sonic can talk now. That's the only one you're really gonna hear during normal gameplay, but it makes getting an extra life all the more satisfying. I think pretty much everyone knows how if you stand and do nothing for 3 minutes, he'll go,
I'm out of here!
and just leave, giving you a game over. I love when the devs throw in fun little secrets like that. It just shows they really had passion for the project. After this, we head over to Tidal Tempest. Now, usually I hate water levels in Sonic games. They're slow, tedious, and fucking nerve-wracking. But this one was okay. It still feels slow, but with the shifted focus in the gameplay, I didn't mind as much. Mainly because I actually want to take it slow and absorb the scenery here. Again, when they did something like this in the first game with Labyrinth Zone, it was awful. Because it was just a cramped hallway blocking your speed with bullshit. This level isn't as cheap though. Air bubbles are plentiful, and you can usually find a spring to bring you back to the surface. That, and it's actually fun to explore. It's no Metroidvania, but I was uncovering all kinds of secrets and stuff. It really sells the feeling that you're delving through the remnants of some ancient civilization that's long since been lost to time, and the music just helps sell this feeling even further. It's got this great air of mystery and intrigue to it. That does make me think, though, who lived here? And not just in Tidal Tempest, but in all of these areas. Like, obviously someone had to have built all this shit, but where the fuck are they? I don't know, maybe Eggman genocided all of the natives when he colonized it. Like I said, for a water level, this one's not bad. But I will add that the past version has what I think is by far the weakest color palette out of any of the levels. I don't know, but this combination of dull blue, shit brown, and puke green just doesn't appeal to me much. I'm more of an eye-searing neon guy myself. This level is tied for my favorite collection of songs for a zone, and visually it's also a big contender for the best. Every single theme for this stage is a banger. In the present, you've got this exquisite piano full of energy as you head through this crystal mine. I also love how you can see these landscapes outside with the waterfalls and forests as you duck in and out of the cave. It's so pretty and makes the world feel so much more alive. And then, when you go back to the past, you get to see the mine in its earlier form when that nature was more prevalent. So fittingly, the song has some more natural sounding effects. And afterwards, you get this really beautiful and relaxing guitar sample that introduces you to the dazzling, colorful Good Future. With all these awesome neon lights and one of the coolest backgrounds I've ever seen in a video game, there's really nothing to dislike about this stage except for these dropping boulders, but even still, they're easy to spot after they hit you once. The transporters are all fairly easy to find, and there's a good mix of speed and exploration. I like these switches that again make the speed feel a bit more puzzle-based, since you've got to redirect the conveyor belts to access certain areas. Then in the bad future, it's turned into an industrial hellscape. The forests have been leveled, and in their place are miles of factories under a polluted sky. The piano's been mixed into a more ominous arrangement, and the whole thing screams panic, like the mine is collapsing. This stage as a whole is my favorite. It encapsulates everything I love about this game. I was just wandering around the level with no clear goal in mind just to explore and experience more of it. So naturally, right after, we get the worst stage, Wacky Workbench. Now, in fairness, I love this one aesthetically as well. The color scheme in the present is one of my favorite stage palettes, and the industrial factory look with all this cool machinery is pretty awesome. Then in the past, you get to see it under construction in this old canyon area, with the music adopting a kind of western-y sound to reflect the environment. Like Quartz Quadrant, the bad future is a cool dystopian take with a more run-down look, whereas the good future has become what looks to be a toy factory with this crazy circus motif. Now, sadly, the stage itself is kind of a mess. Almost the entire floor bounces you like a powerful spring, meaning you can never really get your footing unless you get to the lower areas or a platform. But even still, that doesn't guarantee you're safe. You also have virtually no control midair as you're helplessly tossed through all these hazards that you just can't really avoid. And yeah, like I said, it's a fucking mess. And it's a real shame because, like I said, conceptually this one's really cool. I can think of so many awesome stage gimmicks and things you could do with this kind of factory setting, but instead it's just a bouncy castle. Thankfully though, this is the only zone in the game I would call bad, and what comes next really makes up for it. Here it is, folks, the most iconic area of the game, Stardust Speedway, which I'm happy to say lives up to the name and reputation. There's still that maze feel to the level, but like Quartz Quadrant, it's more open and you can run around more often. And this is where the soundtrack really brings the funk, mixed with some weird-ass but catchy vocal samples. All versions of this stage are awesome, and there's a reason it's one of the most widely remembered parts of the game. And also, look at these backgrounds, fucking gorgeous. Now, the only thing is it does have more spikes than I'd like, which can be fun, but aside from that, it's pretty awesome. The real star of the show, though, is the boss. You start up Act 3, and it's one of the most peaceful and relaxing areas of the game, but then you realize you're not just fighting some pushover this time. This race fight is the highlight of the game for most people, and for good reason. I mean, for one, Metal Sonic is actually a worthy foe. Eggman is trailing behind with an instant kill laser, and if you don't keep up, it's game over. Now, normally I'm not a fan of insta-kills, but I feel like the game earned it by this point. Even though this isn't the final boss, it really may as well be. Metal's pretty fast, and if you can't beat him to the end, you'll get lasered. That, and he'll throw in plenty of his own moves to try and trip you up. I actually did die a few times to this guy, but it never felt unfair. If you pay attention, you'll spot some shortcuts you can access with good timing. Like in the rest of the game, blindly running isn't the best answer. It's also cool how they use the Bad Future theme for the boss race. It's like the game is saying, nah buddy, your work isn't over yet, you still gotta earn that good future. Also, the US version of this track is one of the few I really like. I don't think it matches the fight nearly as well as the original, but it really captures the sound of a Bad Future to me. And I love some of the kind of eerie vocals they mixed in too. I think that's a problem with most of the US versions of these songs, because like I said, they're not all bad, but even the good ones just don't really fit the tone of the level they're supposed to represent as well as the originals. The US present version of Stardust Speedway is much the same. It's a pretty cool and memorable song with a nice atmosphere, but it just doesn't match the vibe the level is supposed to have. When you beat Metal, we rescue Amy, but our work isn't done. It's time to go get Robotnik. Metallic Madness is sadly a mixed bag of a final zone. Aesthetically, I love every version of it. The color palette and backgrounds are great as always, and it's actually unique from the other levels in an interesting way. When you go to the past, it's not a more natural environment. It's still a big industrial area just under construction. And that's because, unlike other areas, this one wasn't a natural part of Little Planet. Rather, it's where Eggman started his invasion. The music demonstrates this pretty well too. Every theme except for the Good Future has that more Bad Future energy to it. It shows that even if it was more colorful and less deadly during its inception, it was always a metallic hellscape right from the start. Also, this level is tied with Quartz Quadrant for my favorite part of the soundtrack. The present theme kicks off with some piano and hype Japanese rap. It's exactly the kind of tone you want for your final stage, all out and over the top. In the past, we go to a more colorful and under construction version. And look, I'm not a music theorist. I can't explain in the most specific of terms what I like about these sounds, but all I know is it makes me want to fucking bust a groove. The Good Future track is nice, but the Bad Future really takes the cake and is one of the best songs in the game for me. It's so ominous and oppressive, exactly what you'd expect from an Eggman-controlled future. And this weird voice basically mocks you, saying you messed up and there's no hope now.
You can't do anything, so don't even try. Get some help. Don't do what Sonic does. Sonic, never alive, is mine.
It's probably the most chilling yet awesome thing in the game. Now, sadly, in terms of bullshit placement, yeah, this one's up there. It's hard to go a few steps without a spring, spike, or saw tripping you up, and it means the level can be kind of a hassle to get through. There are definitely fun parts, like when you shrink down into Little Sonic or jump on these catapults that do this cool trick with the 2D perspective, but overall I would definitely say this is one of the weaker ones. The final act is also the only part of the game with a bottomless pit, which is just great. I mean, I just love it when a game puts cheap one-hit kill bullshit right before the final boss just to eat through your lives and make the journey harder. Great fucking level design, guys. The final boss is pretty underwhelming since it's easy like all the other Eggman fights, but at least they tried to give this one a few different moves here and there, and the final theme kicks ass. There was actually supposed to be a new final boss added in the 2011 remaster that would have served as a more satisfying conclusion to the game, but Sega didn't want to alter it too much by adding any new content, and usually I'd agree, but I think in this case it would have been justified. With Eggman defeated, the day is saved, and we rush out of the exploding area with Amy in tow. We get this great ending cutscene recapping the entire game, and man, what a journey it was. Here's an interesting little fact I learned while making this video. In this outro cutscene, you can see a ruined city area with this antlion enemy. This zone was ultimately scrapped during development, but the cutscene was commissioned early enough that it still showed up as it was too late to remove it. A few assets actually got dug up by Christian Whitehead when he was working on the remaster of the game. I just love cut content stuff like this, I find it pretty fascinating. Now, if I haven't made it clear already, I love this game. It's not perfect, and I'd still say Mania and 3 and K are my favorites, but so what? The stages have their problems, sometimes the time travel will put you inside of a floor by accident, the bosses are too easy, and the UFO minigame is, not my favorite. Not only that, but it breaks a lot of conventions of the Sonic series, and like I said, I get it. Some people are going to come into this game hoping for something like 2 and 3 and get a very different experience that isn't what they're looking for. But I think that experience, while different, is still pretty great despite its flaws. The vibes of this game are off the chain. I could wander these levels just to enjoy the visuals and music alone. They're fun to explore and filled with a lot of fun little segments and secrets. But the game still keeps a quick enough pace that they never wear out their welcome. Well, usually not. Little Planet is also just such a fascinating setting I'd really like to see explored more in the future. Like, seriously, who's living up here? How does the wildlife evolve to be all robotic? If you played this looking for a normal classic Sonic experience, I get why you might have hated it. But I'd recommend giving it another chance if you made it this far into the video and haven't done so already. And even if you really can't get into it, I'd still recommend the soundtrack. Hell, even people who hate this game usually can concede on that.